Once a viewer is hooked on a character, a movie can ultimately exploit that emotion with a massive shock coming completely out of left field. And these revelations can come in many different forms. So buckle up folks, because this list is about to leave your jaw smacking off the floor. I'm Gareth, this is What Culture, and here are 10 movie character reveals which stopped you dead. Number 10, Slevin was really Henry. Lucky number Slevin. As far as pitching a movie goes, you wouldn't have to go much further than having Morgan Freeman and Ben Kingsley as rival crime bosses to grab the interest of most people. Add in Bruce Willis as something of a third-party interest of both, plus Lucy Liu, Stanley Tucci, Josh Hartnett, and a huge twist, and you've got yourself a picture, baby. The story starts with something of a history lesson, in which a character by the name of Max bet on a fixed horse race that ultimately went wrong. The new mafia outfit in town, to make an impression, then ordered Max, his wife, and his son Henry to be killed. When Hartnett's Slevin Kalevra gets dragged into the middle of his roommate's gambling problems, it seems at first that he's an innocent bystander in the wrong place at the wrong time, until the game-changing reveal that he was really Henry, Max's son, who hitman Bruce Willis decided to keep alive after a bout of compassion. The mobsters that killed Max were the boss and the rabbi, played by Freeman and Kingsley respectively, which consequently saw Henry engineer all of the events in the story to be able to kill them both. It's a genius example of the Kansas City shuffle that Bruce Willis explains in the opening scenes. It's all about misdirection, and there's not an audience member watching that wouldn't have fallen for it. Great stuff. Number 9, The Neighborhood Watch Murderers, Hot Fuzz. As a follow-up to his first collaboration with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, Shaun of the Dead, director Edgar Wright had some big shoes to fill with Hot Fuzz. Fortunately, any and all expectations were matched and then some, with the wonderfully twisted movie about a big-time London cop in a quaint and quiet suburb. While initially painfully mundane, particularly compared to the London crime scene Sergeant Nicholas Angel was used to, things start to spice up with a series of murders undertaken by a mysterious hooded figure. Once Angel figured out that there were multiple murderers, it wasn't long before he found that they were being committed by the Neighborhood Watch Alliance. And why? Because certain people in the community were threatening their chances of winning the Village of the Year award. So of course they were killed off. And with the police chief on their side, their precious crime statistics were not affected. Angel was so close to uncovering this insane plot for so much of the movie, and when the killers were finally revealed, it made so much sense. This was a properly incredible story, with an impressive twist for what could have easily just been another standard comedy. Now I want to know, what is your favourite Edgar Wright movie? Is it Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, The World's End, or something else? You let me know in the comment section down below. Number 8, Adelaide and Red switched places, Us. Much like Edgar Wright's follow-up to Shaun of the Dead, Jordan Peele arguably made for himself an even bigger act to follow in Get Out. And while his sophomore effort, Us, may not have quite captured the public's imagination like his first, that doesn't mean that it wasn't another impressive effort. Led by phenomenal performances from both Lupita Nyong'o and Winston Duke, Us told the story of a world of doubles living in tunnels underground, being forced to do whatever the real-world person they were tethered to would do, having no control, no joy, no happiness, no nothing. Nyong'o's Adelaide actually discovered the society beneath her own when she was a girl, and was understandably a bit disturbed by it. Then, years later, her entire family's doubles made their way above ground, and confronted them in what has to be one of the creepiest cinematic scenes in recent memory. However, even more unsettling was the reveal toward the end of the movie that Adelaide had in fact all along been the tethered version of Red, who she attacked and swapped places with when they were young. The reason she never talked when she came back was because she had to learn how to act like a human girl rather than the monster kept down below. The monster that Red ultimately became. And you can't even blame her, can you? Number 7, it was Dylan Rhodes all along, Now You See Me. A big twist in a movie doesn't necessarily need to be a good one, or even make a whole lot of sense to stop you in your tracks. The reveal at the end of Now You See Me is a perfect example of this. After chasing the group of Robin Hood-esque magicians known as the Four Horsemen for the entire film, and even clearly being bothered by them when alone, FBI agent Dylan Rhodes revealed himself to be the until then anonymous benefactor that put them together in the first place. This was his method of revenge against those he held accountable accountable for the death of his father, another magician he felt had been wronged by many different parties. The problem is that this twist made absolutely no sense within the context of the movie. There were no clues to his true identity throughout the story. It made no sense and simply raised more questions than answers. However, in terms of a jaw-dropping reveal, simply because it was so unexpected, it did its job really. Number 6, Teddy Daniels was really Andrew Ladish, Shutter Island. How about another film where Mark Ruffalo wasn't what he seemed, eh? In Shutter Island, though he appeared to arrive at Ashcliff Hospital with Leonardo DiCaprio's US Marshal Teddy Daniels, it was actually a long con, and he was lying about who he was literally from the very beginning to the very end. Initially on screen as Chuck, Teddy's partner, Ruffalo's character was ultimately revealed to be a doctor on the island, working with the seemingly villainous Dr. Corley all along. However, the twist did not stop there, as DiCaprio's Marshal was actually the patient of Ruffalo's Dr. Sheehan. Edward Daniels was in truth Andrew Ladish, the criminally insane and incredibly dangerous man who killed his own wife after she drowned their 3 children, before he created the US Marshal alter ego as something of a coping mechanism. The role-playing was something Dr. Sheehan and Dr. Corley came up with as a last-ditch effort to make a breakthrough with Ladish before ultimately seeing him sent for a lobotomy. As a twist, this is almost the antithesis to that of Now You See Me. Whereas Ruffalo's turn as Dylan Rhodes made no sense, you could watch through Shutter Island a second time and see countless wonderful clues to the truth now that you knew it. Thanks for checking out this video today, folks. Now go and hit that subscribe button down below for more What Culture in your life. Number 5, Ransom tried to kill Harlan, Knives Out. From the very beginning of Knives Out, there were twists and turns that seemingly had no explanation, until Daniel Craig's Benoit Blanc was able to put all the pieces together. Even the fact that he was hired made no sense initially, so deep and intricate was this mystery. The first and biggest suspect in the death of Harlan Thrombey, head of the wildly dysfunctional Thrombey family, was his grandson Ransom. Ransom had been shown to be, for lack of a better word, a bit of an a-hole, and seemed in no way above killing out of revenge. While the movie revealed that the death of Harlan was seemingly an accident, with Marta Cabrera giving him a dose from the wrong syringe, clearly there was something more going on. In spite of how Ransom was initially presented, it seemed that one of the story's big twists was that he actually wasn't the villain he was portrayed as he seemed to be genuinely trying to help Marta. Perhaps this is why the actual reveal that he really was a villain after all was so damn effective. The audience had already had one big twist surrounding the character, and so their guard drops, allowing Rian Johnson to double back on himself with the reveal that Ransom did try to kill Harlan after all, and was willing to kill others on the path to covering it up. It was a clever twist presented in a clever way that ultimately became more than the sum of its parts. Number 4, David Dunn existed in the Split universe. Split. If there is one thing guaranteed in this crazy old thing we call life, it's that any and all M. Night Shyamalan movies will include some kind of big twist, with of course The Sixth Sense being the most iconic example. However, this doesn't necessarily make it the best of the director's misdirections. For this, you have to look just 1 year later than Bruce Willis being dead the whole time, to Unbreakable, where the twist surrounded Samuel L. Jackson's Elijah Price rather than Willis's David Dunn. Price was a comic book obsessive, and as a man with a condition that rendered his bones as brittle and breakable as glass, he believed there was an opposite, someone who was completely unbreakable. He found his superhero in Dunn. However, the big reveal at the end of the film was that Price engineered a lot of quote-unquote accidents and incidents to root out such a man, including the train crash that killed everyone on board but Dunn, thus revealing his powers. But this isn't even the biggest reveal of the Unbreakable franchise. The fact that there was an Unbreakable franchise at all holds that title. Fast forward 16 years to Split, where the fact that David Dunn existed in the same universe as James McAvoy's Kevin Wendell Crumb confirmed it as a huge sequel and crossover that absolutely nobody saw coming. If only the subsequent Glass wasn't so underwhelming, eh? But take nothing away from that insane image of Bruce Willis's David Dunn rocking up at the end of Split. Number 3, The Bride's Daughter Was Still Alive, Kill Bill Volume 1. Kill Bill is the ultimate revenge flick, following Uma Thurman's bride on her journey to kill not only the deadly Viper assassination squad, who shot her in the head while pregnant on her wedding day, but also their boss, Bill himself. The titular villain stayed in the shadows during the first part, though he managed to deliver one hell of a cliffhanger. The first names on the bride's list that she tackled in Volume 1 were Vernita Green and Oren Ishii. I mean, if you're gonna be ultra critical, you could say that much of the jeopardy in the first film was negated by the fact that the entire second half was dedicated to the bride tracking down Oren, a name that the audience had already seen crossed off the list before she fought Green at the start. However, even with that being said, with just one sentence at the end of the movie, Bill hyped up the second chapter like nothing else could have. The bride was pregnant when she was shot on her wedding day, but the news that her then unborn daughter survived? This was an utterly insane bombshell to drop that wouldn't have crossed anyone's mind. It was a miracle that the bride herself survived, albeit in a coma for 4 years, but the fact that her daughter was alive instantly multiplied the stakes of the upcoming second chapter by tenfold at least. Number 2, Hannah was Cal's daughter, Crazy Stupid Love. On the face of it, and for much of its 2-hour runtime, Crazy Stupid Love seemed to be a fairly run-of-the-mill rom-com. After being told his wife wanted a divorce, Cal found himself learning how to pick up women from the almost annoyingly charming Jacob. The latter ultimately admitted he was deeply unhappy with his different girl every night lifestyle, and found himself falling in love with Emma Stone's Hannah. This added to the intricate web of love the movie weaved, though it wasn't revealed until the perfect time. Robbie was in love with his babysitter Jessica, who herself was in love with Cal, Robbie's dad. Cal, in spite of sleeping with 8 women in the short time he had been separated from Emily, was still in love with his wife, who cheated on him with David Lindhagen. All of these moving parts were fine until Jacob's new girlfriend Hannah was revealed to be Cal's daughter. This was a huge twist that came absolutely out of nowhere, and was equal parts mind-blowing and hilarious thanks in the most part to the superb performances of Steve Carell and Ryan Gosling. And everyone involved really, what a scene! Number 1, Amy Dunn was an unreliable narrator, Gone Girl. In David Fincher's Gone Girl, Nick Dunn finds that his wife Amy went missing on their anniversary. As the police got involved with snippets from Amy's diary allowing for context, Nick was painted as a physical and emotional abuser who threatened to kill Amy and had her fearing for her life. Cue the film being completely turned on its head by the reveal that not only is Amy still alive and well, but she is orchestrating everything to get revenge on Nick for cheating on her, and aiming to get him the death penalty for her murder. As shocking as it was to discover Amy was alive, arguably the biggest reveal is that she is an unreliable narrator. The things the audience were told from her diary weren't real. They were made up entries all in place to build Nick as the kind of character who could and probably did murder her. Everything you thought you knew was a lie, people, even down to the real villain of the piece. Consider me stopped. Dead.